Can snails really grow their eyes back? Picture this. You suffer a devastating eye injury. For us humans, severe damage to the eye is sadly pretty much permanent. We simply don't have the biological machinery to reconstruct such a complex sensory organ once it's gone. But what if your body just decided to, grow a brand new, fully functioning eye from absolutely nothing? Well, for one specific creature on Earth, this isn't some crazy superpower, it's literally just a regular Tuesday.
It's honestly mind-blowing when you compare our own biological limits to the sheer resilience of a South American freshwater mollusk known as the golden apple snail. If we lose an eye, that loss is completely irreversible. But if the snail loses an eye, no big deal. It just regrows it in about a month.
I mean, this invasive pest is basically an ocular wolverine. It's capable of regenerating its complex eye structures completely at will. Whether it's through a predator injury in the wild or an amputation in a lab setting, the golden apple snail doesn't just, form a scar and call it a day. It kicks off a total biological rebuild of one of the most complex organs in its entire body.
And get this, they aren't some tiny microscopic speck either. These resilient snails can grow to be the size of an apple, or even a softball, weighing up to half a pound. This impressive size, combined with the fact that they grow really quickly and reproduce abundantly without some complicated larval phase, makes them absolutely perfect laboratory animals for scientists trying to unlock the secrets of regeneration.
Section 1. Eyes like a camera, a shared anatomy.
So the craziest part here isn't just that they can grow an eye back, it's what kind of eye they are actually growing. At first glance, you wouldn't think we have much of anything in common with a snail, but we actually share what biologists call a camera-type eye structure. There are lots of different types of eyes in the animal kingdom, but camera-type eyes are uniquely known for producing high-resolution images. They're the exact same type of eyes found in all vertebrates, including you and me.
Just like your eyes, the snail's eye features a protective cornea on the outside, a lens for focusing the light, and a super complex retina packed with millions of light-detecting photoreceptor cells. When the snail regenerates its eye, it is rebuilding all of this highly specialized, intricate hardware perfectly from scratch.
Here is where it gets really intense. Right after an amputation, the snail's body goes into absolute overdrive. Researchers discovered that immediately following the injury, an astonishing 9,000 genes are expressed differently in the healing tissue compared to a normal adult snail eye. That is essentially the snail's genetic code sounding a massive, blaring alarm to start the construction project.
Section 2. How to regrow an eye. The rebuilding phases.
Molecular and cellular biologist Dr. Heliciculture and her team at UC Davis mapped out this timeline, and it is incredibly fast. Within the first 24 hours, boom, the wound just heals over to prevent infection and fluid loss. But from days 3 to 15, unspecialized cells rush to the site and start transforming. By day 15, going from just a sealed wound, a structurally complete eye with a lens, a retina, and an optic nerve is entirely formed.
But here's the million-dollar question, right? Can the snail actually see with it? While the anatomical hardware is fully replaced and looks identical under a microscope to the original eye, researchers are still developing specialized behavioral assays to prove exactly when their vision comes back online. We know they have the machinery to process images, but proving they can actually perceive those stimuli is the very next step. Now, even though the eye looks perfectly complete on the outside by day 15, there's still a lot going on under the hood. The eye needs time to mature. In fact, 28 days later, researchers found that 1,175 genes are still expressing differently compared to a normal eye. This tells us that those final microscopic adjustments and maturation processes are still happening beneath the surface, weeks after the eye visually appears whole. Section 3. The PAX6 gene connection, genetic master switch.
So how on earth do they actually pull this off? What flips the switch that tells a bundle of unspecialized cells to suddenly become a high-resolution camera-type eye? Well, it all comes down to a shared piece of genetic code called the PAX6 gene. This gene is a bit of a celebrity in biology. It's an essential regulator responsible for eye development across a massive variety of species, from fruit flies to mice to golden apple snails, and yes, to us humans.
To prove just how vital this specific gene is, Dr. Accorsi's team brought out the heavy hitter, CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technology. They specifically targeted golden apple snail embryos and mutated their PAX6 genes, effectively turning that master switch to the off position. Then they just watched to see how the snails would develop.
The results, completely undeniable and honestly striking. Without those functional PAX6 genes, the golden apple snails grew up entirely eyeless. This proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the PAX gene is the critical biological architect required to build this specific type of eye in these animals.
So the obvious next question is, what happens if we use CRISPR to turn off the PAX6 gene in adult snails right during an active regrowth phase? By switching the gene off right after an amputation, researchers are hoping to map out exactly how the healing switch is flipped, confirming if the exact same gene that originally builds the eye is also the one that rebuilds it.
Section 4. Future Hope for Humans. Unlocking Snail Secrets.
Let's bring this all back to us. Why do we care so much about a freshwater snail? Why are researchers at UC Davis and the Stowers Institute so invested in this? It's because we share the PAX6 gene and that camera-type eye structure with these snails. Scientists are hoping that by mapping the snail's exact regeneration sequence, we can eventually learn to activate these identical genetic switches in humans. The ultimate goal? To trick human biology into healing major eye injuries or even reversing degenerative eye diseases.
Other experts in the field are paying very close attention to this. Dr. Henry Klassen, an ophthalmologist and stem cell researcher over at UC Irvine, literally called this research a beacon of light. It's forcing the medical community to ask what exact genetic roadblocks are currently suppressing this regenerative path in humans. Basically, where does our biological path diverge from the snails?
Now, to be completely transparent here, we are still a long way from a miracle cure. You won't be walking into a local eyeball regeneration spot anytime soon, for sure. The science is incredibly promising, absolutely, but we are still fundamentally in the laboratory mapping phase, trying to figure out exactly which genetic levers need to be pulled.
But it does leave us with an amazing thought to end this explainer on. Nature has already run millions of years of evolutionary R&D. If an invasive snail holds the biological code to completely cure its own blindness, what other profound medical secrets is nature hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to look close enough?